Oh, hey guys, it's you! I'm playing the CURAT Sonification Game! The CURAT Sonification Game leverages gamification to evaluate our psychoacoustic sonification. The psychoacoustic sonification communicates one target location in a three-dimensional space. It is interactive. Imagine this coordinate system being egocentric. So as soon as you move, the sound changes because the relative location of the target changes. Instead of using spatial audio, we communicate each direction of each dimension by means of one sound attribute and the distance along that direction by means of the intensity of this attribute. It is complicated. And in experiments, it takes our participants half an hour to understand it well enough to really use it. That means the experiment results show how people interact with something that they have just been exposed to for the first time in their lives, which is interesting, but it does not show the full potential of the sonification, how effectively and efficiently people could use it after weeks of frequent usage. So yes, laboratory experiments have many benefits and we should never replace them, but they also have certain drawbacks, and we found that gamification with computer games is a bit complementary. So the weaknesses of one are like the strength of the other. For example, it is easier to convince many people to download and play a video game compared to finding volunteers to participate in an experiment in the lab. People can play the game at home in their natural environment, so they don't feel exposed to a certain situation. They don't feel like being watched, being judged. They can take all the time they need to familiarize themselves with the sound, the given task, and so on and so forth. If the game is fun, they may play for hours, over days, weeks, months, maybe years. No personal contact is needed, which is a big plus, we found out, because for over a year now, we could not invite people to the lab in our university, but we can still let people download and play our game. Our greatest fear, however, is that we give up the control. Without control, without surveillance, we can never be sure. Do healthy people play the game in a quiet environment with high quality audio system, focusing on the task, not being distracted? With a game we don't know. Maybe someone is playing at the train station who can hardly hear the sonification, who is distracted by so many things, or even worse, maybe it's not a real person playing our game, it's just a cat lounging around on the keyboard creating random data. We don't know. I was a bit surprised to see that games have quite a strict definition, and so does gamification. We try to meet all these criteria with our CURAT Sonification game. Here's our trailer. Yeah, engaging, not very informative though. In the video game, we have one campaign mode. Here people can train their skills, familiarize themselves with the sound, with the given tasks, and the 5 mini games that are available in the CURAT Sonification game. In the arcade mode, they can choose one of these 5 video games to play and try to reach the high score. And if you give permission, the data from your arcade game is transferred to our university server so we can analyze it. The arcade game is adaptive, so the better you perform, the more difficult it will get. The objective is always the same. The sonification tells you the location of one target in either a 1 or a 2 or 3-dimensional space. In passive games, you need to click on the sonified target location. In interactive games, you need to navigate towards it. The two passive games that we have are quite similar. In Noisy Nuts, that's the nutshell game. A coin is hidden under one of the nutshells. The shells are shuffled and you need to identify where the coin is in the end. However, if you perform well, the shuffling speed will rise until it is impossible to solve that task visually. However, the sonification will always tell you under which nutshell the coin is hidden. Yeah, like that. Between 3 and 9 by 9, so 81 nutshells are available. In the interactive games, the target is either moving or static, and more importantly, you can control the location of an avatar and navigates towards the target. You could see me play the UFO game before. Here is a short demo of the sounding submarine. Here there is not much to see. You just need to navigate your submarine to the next checkpoint. The sonification tells you where this checkpoint is located. You do have a lights on board. The capacity of the battery is limited, so shortly have a look around for some extra help. Then you need to solve the task by hearing. Okay. We are still in the promotion phase, waiting for more downloads and more player statistics. So I only want to present a brief look at some of the raw data that has been transferred so far. It's an initial analysis of the static games, Dancing Darts and Noisy Nuts. What you can see here are the 3 two-dimensional planes. We subdivided these planes into 9 subregions, and for every subregions we calculated the average hit rate. How often have people clicked on the correct target location? Mainly to find out if people even try or if they are just clicking around randomly. And what we can see is that on average, players clicked on the correct nutshell in or darts area in 53% of all trials, which is amazing because we have between 2 darts areas and 81 nuts available. So a random guess should create a value between 1.2 and 50%. So people seem to play conscientiously. And here is a result of a similar experiment in our lab where people had to choose the sonified target location from 16 available fields and had a hit rate between 51 and 64%, so very comparable. So our main result is that people do seem to play conscientiously and not just randomly click around. So people do not fool around just because there is no surveillance. They seem to take it seriously, which is a relief for us. In the future, of course, we want to evaluate much more and analyze the data. How readily can people use the sonification? Are there any training effects? Do people learn fast, or does it take a lot of time? Can people use the sonification effectively, or the other way around? Does our sonification create systematic misinterpretations, so we need to fix it? And of course, are there any performance limits? How is the resolution? How low can you go? So that's it from the CURAT Sonification Game. Please download and play the game conscientiously so we can get more data out of it. I'm looking forward for your feedback, questions, remarks, and discussions.
Thank you, Tim. This is really fascinating and kind of exciting for all of us. I have a question that I'm gonna try to combine with the question that's in the Q&A. The question was about fixed versus dynamic points because in the game. Because it's one thing to find a fixed point, but another to continuously control a dynamic system using sound, which could be possible in the game. But yeah, the question that I had that I think is related is the base model kind of like the hot and cold game? If people are trying to find something spatially and using the sound to navigate, is it kind of like, you know, you're close or you're not very close?
Oh, way more than that.
Okay, okay.
So in sonification, that's what I was trying to tell. For every dimension, we have two directions, right? Left, right, for example, up, down, front, back.
Yeah.
And the sound tells it all. It tells you, do you have to go left or right? And how far? How far to the left? Like, is it slightly to the left or far to the left? And at the exact same time, it tells you, do you have to go move forward or backwards? And how far? Very far to the front or very far back or just slightly to the front? And at the same time, it tells you up or down and how far. It is one sound only, one auditory stream. We've been talking about it. It's one auditory stream. So it seems as if it was just one complex sound that has multiple attributes. And if you learn to interpret the different attributes and interpret the magnitude of the attribute right, then you perfectly know for all time points, for all points in time, whether you have to move left, right, up, down, front, back, and how far. And that's now a part, that now your game control plays a role, because in real life I could approach it directly, go the diagonal way, which is not always possible in the games, because there we have left, right, and up, down, so different things. So there, it's not always possible to go the direct path. But in principle, all the information is always there, and you could decide to solve the task axis by axis or just directly approach the target on the shortest path.
But is it finding an object in space, basically? Or
Always
finding multiple objects?
In space, either in one dimension, which means only left or right and how far, or in 2 dimensions, that's what I mean by plane, or in 3-dimensional space.
Yeah. Heather Spence asks, could this, or have you tried using this method to navigate in a real space without visual information? So blindfolded or something of that
yes.
sort?
Back in 2018, we started making experiments where people just were using their mouse to control a cursor on a blank screen to find a hidden target in 2-dimensional space. Now that we've added the 3rd dimension, we've prepared experiments to do the same in an empty space where your fingers are tracked, or you have a pencil and it is tracked. So you have to find an invisible target in 3-dimensional space. We have prepared it. We are waiting for the go until we can really invite people for the experiments.
Yes.
So our solution until then is now the game. Play the game and show us how well you can interpret it, or whether there are things that we need to fix. We just don't know yet, especially the 3rd dimension. We have not evaluated that much so far.
Mm-hmm. And final question, just in the interest of time, from Thomas. What about alternative to Cartesian coordinates? For example, polar coordinates, which, you know, I'm a big fan of, and I did some work back in the day.
I think, Thomas, you're right. That's a bit more the way we think, right? We typically do not think in Cartesian coordinates when we think spatially, but more of, like I said, left or right and how far. So we point at things. Yes, this is, I have not implemented it, but there should be a way, and maybe we can even transpose our sonification that is already there to another coordinate system. We need to try it out. I have not.
Okay, maybe Thomas can tell you more if he drops by, and
we will talk about it more, Thomas, in the booth.
Yep. Sounds good. Thank you, Tim.